12 noon on July 13th, 2023, and I will call the meeting of the District of Columbia Board of Ethics and Government Accountability to order. I'm Norma Hutcheson, the Bega Chairperson, and this meeting is being held virtually via WebEx. Joining me today for the meeting are board members Charles Nottingham, Felice Smith, Darrin Sobin, and Melissa Tucker. And together we constitute a quorum for the meeting. Since it was first posted, the agenda for the meeting has not changed in any way. So please take a minute to review it, and then we'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
I'll offer the motion that we adopt the agenda from the previous meeting for the current meeting.
Current meeting. Okay, is there a second for that motion?
Second.
Okay, you've heard the motion and it's been seconded. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposition? Hearing none, the agenda is adopted. Next, we have the minutes from the June 8th, 2023 meeting that are in draft form. And will you take a minute to review those if you haven't already? And then I'll also need a motion from a member to approve those minutes.
I'll offer the motion to approve the meeting minutes from the June 8th meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and second that the minutes from the June 8th meeting be approved. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, the board approves the June 8th meeting minutes. Next on our agenda is a report from the Office of Open Government. We'll hear from Office of Open Government Chief Counsel Johnnie Barton, will provide a report on behalf of the office, and he is appearing virtually via WebEx. Chief Counsel Barton, please proceed.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairperson Hutcheson and members of the board. I am Johnnie Barton, Chief Counsel of the Office of Open Government, and I'm pleased to present this report on the activities of the Office of Open Government, OOG, on behalf of Director Niquelle Allen. Since the last board meeting, OOG has continued to fulfill its mission of ensuring that all persons receive full and complete information regarding the affairs of the District of Columbia government and the activities of those who represent them. As a preliminary matter, Director Allen would like to extend her gratitude to the board for her reappointment. Director Allen is excited to continue to lead OOG as we continue our efforts to ensure DC government remains open and transparent. Open Meetings Act and Freedom of Information Act advice. I'll begin with advisory opinions and formal advice. Dismissal of Advisory Neighborhood Commission ANC OMA complaint. On June 8th, 2023, Director Allen dismissed complaint number OOG-2023-0004-M regarding a violation of the OMA by an ANC. Because ANC are excluded from the OMA, 3 DCMR section 10403.1A provides for the dismissal of complaint that does not rise within the director's authority under the OMA. The Advisory Neighborhood Councils Act of 1975 governs ANC meetings. The complainant was referred to the Office of the Inspector General for resolution. Board of Trustees of Eagle Academy Public Charter School and District of Columbia Public Charter School compliance with the OMA. On September 22nd, 2022, OOG received a complaint alleging OMA violations by the Board of Trustees of Eagle Academy, Eagle Board, and the District of Columbia Public Charter School Board, DCP CSB. In the June 26, 2023 advisory opinion, Director Allen concluded that the Eagle Board does not accessibly post minutes except for a few scattered exceptions to its website, and the Eagle Board did not respond to OOG's request to review a particular meeting notice, nor the audio or video of its meetings. Director Allen noted that DC Public Charter School Board may have the duty under DC FOIA's affirmative disclosure section to post Eagle's grade expansion application and the public comments in response to the application to the internet. The complainant was advised that OOG may only provide DC Public Charter School Board with non-binding advice on DC FOIA, as the Director of Open Government is not authorized to enforce public body compliance with the statute. Next is informal OMA and FOIA advice. Since the last board meeting, OOG has responded informally via email or telephone to requests for assistance as follows: 13 requests for OMA advice, 5 requests for FOIA advice, and 12 requests for technical assistance with open-dc.gov. Remote meeting monitoring. OG attorneys attend remote public meetings to ensure compliance with the OMA and to inspect public body websites and OOG's central meeting calendar for public meeting notices and records. We provide legal advice on OMA compliance and take corrective action if necessary. During June 2023, OOG's legal staff attended 30 remote public body meetings. As a result of the monitoring, written corrective measures were taken against public bodies. The public bodies receive warnings for the following deficiencies regarding public notice: the failure to cite the OMA regulatory statement and the failure to post on their websites a complete meeting notice that included the meeting agenda, location, and meeting access information. Training and outreach. Office of Attorney General, OAG, Springtime Ethics Hour. On June 6, 2023, Attorney DeBerry, Attorney Serbo, and I attended hypothetical-based ethics training on topics of interest to OOG and agency lawyers, including conflicts of interest, reporting misconduct, and many issues that regularly arise in government practice. Law and Economics Center, George Mason University webinar. On June 9th, 2023, Attorney Scarbo and I attended the Law and Economics Center at George Mason University's webinar on state and federal private right of action legislation. Are these mechanisms wise or worrisome? Unlike the District Sunshine Act private right of action, the laws and legislation discussed allow private parties to sue on behalf of the government for violations of certain laws. Meeting with Councilmember Bonds. On June 15th, 2023, Director Allen and I met with Councilmember Anita Bonds and Committee Counsel Kevin Chavez regarding OMA virtual meeting and physical posting of public meeting provisions that expire on August 31st, 2023. We also discussed the future of the OMA and electronic meetings after the pandemic. Office of Open Government FY 23 FOIA webinar series. The OOG is hosting a series of webinars on various DC FOIA topics from June through August 2023. OOG has invited DC government FOIA officers to participate in the webinars, and attorneys are eligible for legal credit upon completion of the webinars. Since the last board meeting, OOG has hosted actually 4 webinars. On June 13th, 2023, I facilitated Nuts and Bolts of FOIA. This webinar was an introductory course on the basics of DC FOIA and its regulations, and provided helpful instruction for performing Freedom of Information Act officer duties. On June 20th, 2023, Director Allen facilitated Effectively Managing the FOIA Process. This webinar covered the life cycle of responding to a FOIA request, from receiving the request to processing and producing records in response to the request. On June 27, 2023, Attorney Serbo facilitated redactions and commonly used DC FOIA exemptions. This webinar provided instructions on how to redact records and covered the most commonly used FOIA exemptions based on the district's annual FOIA report. And the final one actually appears as number 12 in this report. But on July 11th, 2023, trial attorney Nicholas Well facilitated FOIA litigation update. The webinar covered the FOIA litigation process in the District of Columbia, and provided an overview of the most interesting and impactful DC FOIA cases. It also included a review of the latest Mayor's Office of Legal Counsel or MALC opinions and how to search for those opinions. Number 5, International Association of Privacy Professionals, IAPP training. On June 21st through 22nd, 2023, Attorney DeBerry attended a U.S. Private Sector Privacy CIPP U.S. training. The class covered state privacy laws and regulations. The class was facilitated by Bob Siegel, president of Privacy Reef, Inc. National Institute for Trial Advocacy, or NITA. On June 22nd, 2023, Attorney Serbo attended NITA's Studio 71 webinar entitled Expert Cross, a template that works. The webinar discussed dividing expert cross-examination into 2 thematic areas using examples from actual cases and exploring a low-risk, high-yield approach to the cross of experts. District of Columbia Human Resource DCHR webinar. On June 27, 2023, I attended the DCHR MSS webinar training on emotional intelligence. The goal of the webinar was to identify and understand and manage one's emotions, and to identify and understand and manage how the emotions of others impact you. OAG Juvenile Justice webinar. On June 28, 2023, Attorney Well, Attorney Siebel, and I attended a training presented by the OAG, a stroll through the juvenile justice system. The webinar focused on the life of a delinquency and status offender case, from pre-arrest diversion through commitment to the Department of Youth Rehabilitational Services. It included an explanation of juvenile terms of art, the diversion, condominium, juvenile specialty courts, case processing and litigation, agencies and their roles, and the OAGs in the family court's juvenile jurisdiction. OAG Civil Commitment webinar. On June 29th, 2023, Attorney Serbo attended the Civil Commitment, Everything You Wanted to Know training class. The training was facilitated by John Devane, Assistant Attorney General of the Public Service Division. The session covered the history of the commitment process, the current law in the District of Columbia, the Urban Act, and future trends. American Society of Access Professionals, ASAP, National Training Conference. Director Allen, Attorney DeBerry, and Paralegal Brown attended ASAP's 16th Annual National Training Conference featuring the Privacy Act, FOIA, and Records Management on June 27th through 29th, 2023 in New Orleans, Louisiana. The ASAP conference addressed the educational and developmental needs of all individuals dealing with access statutes, privacy issues, and records management. The training blended basic, mid-level, and advanced sessions over 3 days from 8 a.m. through 4:30 p.m. The live instructor-led classes detailed the practical everyday applications of Access Statutes and Record Management. DC Open Government Coalition, DCOGC. The DCOGC provided mid-year data on the Mayor's Office of Legal Counsel, or the MOC's, processing of FOIA appeals. The MOC has reduced the appeals backlog. In FY 23, 237 appeals were carried over from the last year, and 125 new appeals have been submitted since October 1, 2023. DCOGC reported 39 appeals remain. DCOGC also expressed that more needs to be done to ensure the processing of DC FOIA requests within the statutory timeframes and the need to establish a commission to recommend changes to DC FOIA. Litigation and legislative update. Litigation. Phillips Reed alleged Metropolitan Police Department MPD watch list case. As Director Allen has reported, Amy Phillips alleged a federal section 1983 action that the MPD maintains a watch list targeting certain DC FOIA requesters. On May 17, 2023, Ms. Phillips moved to amend her complaint to add a supplemental jurisdictional state claim under DC FOIA. However, the parties announced in their June 15, 2023 status conference that they have resolved their dispute. It appears that the parties intend to stipulate a dismissal. The district's opposition to Ms. Phillips' amended complaint, Ms. Phillips' reply, and an updated docket sheet are in Dropbox. WAPO lawsuit regarding records arising out of the Capitol insurrection. The Washington Post legal entity seeks certain records related to the Capitol insurrection, including the mayor's WhatsApp messages. As Director Allen previously reported, the Superior Court granted summary judgment to the district. On June 8, 2023, the Post appealed. The notice of appeal is in Dropbox. Chicago Justice lawsuit regarding Metropolitan Police Department gang tracking and analysis system. As Director Allen has reported, the Chicago Justice Project, CJP, sued the district to compel the release of certain records from MPD concerning MPD's gang tracking and analysis system. The Superior Court awarded CJP partial summary judgment, finding that the district unlawfully withheld records responsive to two prongs of CJP's initial DC FOIA request. The court ordered the parties to continue to work in good faith to accomplish the disclosure of the pertinent records and to file briefs on the remaining issue of attorney fees. On October 3, 2022, CJP demanded about $450,000 in attorney's fees. 3 weeks later, the district demanded $420,000 in prepayment of the cost of searching for and delivering the remaining public records. In her June 8, 2023 order, Judge Dayson held the district's asserted amount of FOIA review fees to be unreasonable. The order took issue with MPD's approximating its time for document review at 60 pages per hour rather than an industry standard of 60 documents per hour, and proposed use of only supervisory personnel, DS-14 pay grade and above, to perform review, thus generating a fee of $40 per hour over the entire scope of the review. Still, the court required more documentation to evaluate what amount of FOIA fees the court will allow. Judge Dayson also required CJP to submit a revised demand for its attorney's fees because it asserted fees include work on many matters for which it was not entitled to collect fees, such as its unsuccessful motion for preliminary injunction and the motion for an extension of time to file. Judge Dayson ordered CJP submit a revised bill of fees, including only those hours associated with researching, writing, and in court regarding the complaint, the motion and reply for summary judgment, and the opposition to the district's motion for summary judgment. Given that CJP prevailed only in part, the amount may be further reduced. The court's order is in Dropbox. A status hearing is set for July 20, 2023, and OOG staff will attend. Legislation. School and park security briefings. Proposed exemption from the OMA. As Director Allen has reported, on February 23rd, 2023, 9 members of the Council of the District of Columbia, DC Council, introduced the School Security and Transparency Amendment Act of 2023, which would exempt from the OMA certain briefings to the DC Council on the security of District of Columbia public schools and parks and recreation facilities relating to deficiencies in exterior doors or windows or doors to instructional and regularly used administrative spaces, public address systems, fire alarms, or security surveillance systems. It would exempt such security vulnerabilities from public work order disclosure. On June 13, 2023, the DC Council enacted on an emergency basis the relevant language as subtitle D of Title I of the fiscal year 2022 Budget Support Emergency Act of 2023. The new provisions, including new DC FOIA Exemption 20, would apply as of October 1, 2023. The Enrolled Emergency Act is in Dropbox. The pertinent language begins on page 6. Virtual Open Meetings Authority Extension Emergency Temporary Amendment Acts of 2023. On June 20th, 2023, the Council approved the Virtual Open Meetings Authority Extension Emergency Amendment Act of 2023, and the companion temporary measure was passed on first reading. The mayor's response was due on July 12th, 2023. On July 11th, 2023, the companion temporary measure was adopted on second reading. These measures would extend pandemic-era flexibility for public bodies to comply with the OMA by conducting open meetings virtually. However, they do not continue in effect the waiver of physical posting of public meeting notices that were in the previous emergency and temporary legislation. In her introductory memorandum and the emergency declaration, Councilmember Pinto observed that although the public health emergency has concluded, this authorization has provided public bodies with the flexibility to determine the most efficient format for their meetings without reducing access for residents. In fact, providing a virtual option to attend meetings has increased access for many residents, including seniors, individuals with mobility issues, caregivers, individuals who are immunocompromised, and those who are ill. Although many public bodies have resumed in-person meetings, most continue to stream their meetings online or otherwise make the meeting available in a virtual format to allow residents to participate remotely. DC Water Critical Infrastructure Freedom of Information Clarification Acts of 2023. On July 10th, Councilmember Allen introduced emergency and temporary versions of an amendment to DC FOIA. The amendment would expand Exemption 15 to cover critical infrastructure information for the District of Columbia Water and Sewer Authority, DC Water. As Councilmember Allen explained in his floor remarks, the current language only covers records on companies regulated by the Public Service Commission, which does not include DC Water. On July 11th, 2023, the council passed the emergency bill by voice vote and advanced the temporary companion through its final reading. The bills and emergency declaration are in Dropbox. Administrative matters. Bega 1030 15th Street relocation. The weekly meetings continued in June regarding Bega's relocation to its new office. Director Allen, Director Cooks, Chief of Staff Mitchell, and IT Specialist Brown met with Department of General Services, DGS, project managers, and construction team to discuss the progress of the agency's relocation to its new facility at 1030 15th Street Northwest. DGS recently informed Bega through its project managers that the projected date for relocation is now November 2023. During the June monthly meeting, the Bega team discussed the keying of the new location and continued discussions regarding Bega's need for data, telephones, and new facilities. Website updates. IT Specialist Brown completed a project to update the security certificate excuse me for just a second. The security certificate necessary to keep the Office of Open Government website working proficiently. That concludes the board report for July 13th, 2023. I'll answer any questions the board may have.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief Counsel Barton. Are there any questions for Chief Counsel Barton? Anything? Thank you. Thank you for a very thorough report there.
You're welcome.
Okay. Next, we have also via WebEx, we'll hear from the Director of the Office of Government Ethics. Director Ashley Cooks, would you please proceed?
Good afternoon, Chairperson Hutcheson and members of the board. I'm Ashley Cooks, the Director of Government Ethics. I'm pleased to present this report on the activities of the Office of Government Ethics, OGE. First, an update on the status of OGE operations. The information reported today regarding OGE's cases will not reflect any status changes that may occur because of actions taken by the board during today's meeting. For open investigations by status, we have a grand total of 40 open investigations. For open undocketed matters, we have a grand total of 2. Pending state investigations by status. For closed pending collection matters, we have 32. We have 4 matters that are stayed pending DC Superior Court case. 1 matter stayed for OAG False Claims Act case. 4 matters stayed for OIG investigation, for a grand total of 41 pending and state investigations. Next are regulatory matters by status. We have 26 matters that are closed pending collection, 5 matters that are open, for a grand total of 31 matters. Again, we currently have 40 open investigations and 9 matters that are stayed. The number of open preliminary and formal investigations includes 6 new matters. The investigative team has resolved 13 investigations since the board last met. This total does not reflect the number of complaints that were dismissed for a lack of jurisdiction. Recently, OGE agreed to a memorandum of agreement for debt collection services with the Office of the Chief Financial Officer's Central Collection Unit, CCU. Pursuant to the Board of Ethics and Government Accountability Delinquent Debt Recovery Amendment Act of 2022, which was enacted in December 2022, Bega may discretionarily transfer delinquent debts associated with settlements and judgments for Ethics and Open Meeting Act violations to the CCU for collection, and the funds collected on Bega's behalf will be deposited into the Ethics Fund or OMA Fund instead of the General Fund. Once the agreement is finalized, we will begin the process of transferring delinquent debts to the CCU for collection. Next is an update on training and outreach. First, professional development trainings attended by staff. During the month of June, investigator Ileana Corrales took 2 Society of Corporate Compliance and Ethics courses. First, conducting interviews with external business partners, and second, blind dates and investigation interviews are the same thing. Chief of Staff Christina Mitchell attended the Work-Life Renaissance, how AI and ethics can transform the world by EthicsVerse, and PACE, Planning for the Emergency Communication Ecosystem, presented by the Homeland Security and Emergency Management Agency. Program Support Assistant Niquelle Allen completed Communicating Non-Defensively. Attorney Advisor Maurice Eccles took More Effective Writing Makes More Effective Lawyers by the DC Bar. He and Program Coordinator Stan Kosick both attended the virtual Kogel Connect Lobbying Roundtable. The roundtable included discussion and updates from Kogel members regarding rules and regulations from Canada and the U.S. The key takeaway was that many states are mandating lobbyist training to be completed annually. General Counsel Rashi Raj took a deep dive into time management techniques by the South Asian Bar Association of Washington, D.C. For trainings conducted by staff, since the June board meeting, OGE conducted 5 training courses, including the June and July monthly ethics trainings for the Office of the Deputy Mayor of Operations and Infrastructure, the June Brown Bag session, and a lobbyist reporting and registration training. On Monday, June 26th, Supervisory Attorney Asia Stewart Mitchell presented the June Ethics Council Brown Bag session on the Local Hatch Act. A copy of the presentation was placed in a Dropbox. During the month of June, 42 employees completed our online ethics training via PeopleSoft, and 34 users completed 44 courses using our learning management system, with approximately 10 people completing more than 1 course. Course BGA 923, General Ethics Training, and BGA 909, Conflicts of Interest, were the most popular. Since the launch of the learning management system in April 2022, 5,897 employees have registered within the system, which is an increase of 26 users since the last board meeting. We continue to meet with our LRN program manager to discuss ways to optimize the system and increase employee registration. Next is an update on outreach. OGE has recently partnered with the District Department of Transportation, DDOT, to provide ethics training for the entire agency. OGE will provide at least 2 live ethics webinars. For those employees who are not able to attend a webinar, we will initiate an online campaign using the LMS, which will include sending email notifications to employees that notify them to register for the system and complete specific ethics trainings by a certain deadline. OGE is preparing for Ethics Week 2023. The week-long event will take place on October 23rd through the 27th, 2023. This year's theme is Everyday Ethics, #can't go a day without it. The coordination committee, led by Supervisory Attorney Stewart Mitchell, is in the process of creating the agenda, scheduling speakers, and purchasing memorabilia. Once the course schedule is completed, we will provide the notice of the event later this month. Bega newsletter. On Friday, June 16th, OGE published Volume 8, Issue 3 of its newsletter, Ethically Speaking. The newsletter provided reminders of the financial disclosure statement review report deadline, informed readers of the ethical issues within the 3 branches of the federal government, and included enforcement actions taken by other state ethics boards. I'd like to thank Senior Attorney Tran for leading the newsletter project, as well as members of the legal team for providing information and insight on the articles. This issue is available on the Bega website, and a copy is included in a Dropbox for your reading pleasure. Next is an update on advisory opinions and advice. First, informal advice. OGE's legal staff provided advice for approximately 32 ethics inquiries, which is 16 less than the 48 reported at the last board meeting. This number does not include responses we have provided to questions regarding lobbyists and FDS e-filing systems. For formal advisory opinions, OGE's advisory opinion guidance on recusal was finalized on June 9th. The opinion provides advice on when a recusal is warranted and how employees should properly recuse themselves to avoid violating the ethics rules. The opinion details the definition of recusal and provides information on when a written statement of recusal is expressly required by the Code of Conduct and when a recusal is necessary to avoid even the appearance of an ethics violation. The opinion also addresses what should be included in a written statement and the process after an employee discloses a conflict. The opinion is published on the Bega website. On June 22nd, OGE issued a draft advisory opinion, guidance on the Local Hatch Act and use of campaign slogans. The opinion reminds employees of the political activity restrictions and that the on-duty restriction applies to district-regulated political activity and federal political activity. Specifically, the opinion states that employees are permitted to use the phrase "Build Back Better" when referring to official policy initiatives of the Biden administration, but are prohibited from using "Build Back Better" as a campaign slogan while on duty or in the workplace, as well as slogans such as "Finish the Job," "Make America Great Again," or MAGA. The opinion was published on the Bega website and it was also submitted to the DC Register for a 30-day comment period. A copy was placed in the Dropbox for your review. Next are legislation updates. We only have one, and that is the Comprehensive Code of Conduct. As defined in the Ethics Act, the Code of Conduct consists of 7 different statutes and regulations with variable applicability. Comprehensive Code of Conduct, CCC, is legislation that consolidates the district's ethics laws and standardizes the ethical practices between the legislative and executive branches. OGE's legal team will again review and update the CCC with the goal of submitting an updated version of the legislation to the board and then the council this fall. Next is an update on OGE administrative matters. First, OGE staffing. OGE has selected its new auditor, Clara Olawami, who will begin on July 31st. We're in the final stages of reference checks for the attorney advisor candidates and hope to extend an offer this week. OGE conducted interviews this week for 2 investigator positions and have narrowed down the selection to 4 candidates. We will complete a second round of interviews on tomorrow, and offers will be extended as early as next week. I'd also like to welcome 2 summer youth employment program interns, Ms. Bethlehem Solomon and Ms. Amanda Seaton, to the team. Bethlehem is a recent criminal justice graduate from Virginia Commonwealth University, and Amanda is a 3rd-year student at Penn State. They will be joining us for the next 6 weeks. Welcome to them both. For office relocation, our office relocation is still underway. OGE and OOG continue our weekly meetings with the Department of General Services and a project management team to discuss construction and technology needs for the boardroom and staff areas. Due to construction issues, the proposed move date is now November 2023. Next is an update on financial disclosure, FDS. Pursuant to DC Official Code Sections 1-1161.24 and 1-1161.25, public officials and certain government employees must file a financial disclosure statement as a means of transparency and to prevent engaging in conduct that violates the Financial Conflicts of Interest statute. Bega is responsible for ensuring that employees and public officials who meet the statutory requirements file their annual financial disclosure statement. The 2023 financial disclosure statements were due on May 15th. In April, the FDS team sent emails to 4,186 public filers and 4,263 confidential filers announcing the deadline. This year, we extended a 30-day grace period to late filers. Any employee or public official who failed to file their statement on or by June 15th will be penalized with a $300 fine. Overall, the financial disclosure season was successful. In a positive shift, the advisory neighborhood commissioners outpaced previous years with a 76% filing rate, which is up from 65% in 2022 and 63% in 2021. Additionally, 21 agencies boasted a 100% on-time completion rate, while 32 agencies finished with a 100% completion rate by June 15th. The FDS team is now focusing on enforcement for the late filers and those designated but who did not file. While the number of help tickets has decreased significantly since the deadline, the FDS team still receives support tickets, phone calls, and requests for other assistance. And last is an update on lobbying registration and reporting, LRR. Pursuant to DC Official Code Section 1-1162.27A, a person who receives compensation or expends funds in an amount of $250 or more in any 3 consecutive calendar month period for lobbying shall register with the Director of Government Ethics and pay the required registration fee. According to DC Official Code Section 1-1162.30, each registrant shall file a quarterly report concerning the registrant's lobbying activities during the previous quarter. On June 29th, the LRR team sent notices to 450 recipients announcing the 2023 Quarter 3 activity reports are due by close of business on July 17, 2023. The LRR team has been meeting with the Office of the Chief Technology Officer to identify upgrades to the e-filing system. Attorney Advisor Eccles and Program Coordinator Kosick provided lobbying, registration, and reporting training to 25 attendees on June 28th. Thank you. This concludes the Office of Government Ethics July 13, 2023 report. I welcome any questions you may have.
Director Cooks, are there any questions for Director Cooks? No questions? Okay, I'd also like to compliment you on the newsletter and welcome our summer youth employment interns. That's it's good to have some help around for a few extra weeks. So with that, the next item is public comments. And the public was invited to submit comments by 11 a.m. today. And as of 11 a.m., there were no comments, and I haven't received anything to change that. Next on the agenda is the executive or closed session. This session is to discuss ongoing confidential investigations pursuant to DC Official Code, Section 2-575B14, to consult with an attorney to obtain legal advice and to preserve the attorney-client privilege between an attorney and a public body, pursuant to DC Official Code, Section 2-575B4A, to discuss personnel matters, including the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, performance evaluation, compensation, discipline, demotion, removal, or resignation of government appointees, employees, or officials pursuant to DC Official Code, Section 2-575B10, to deliberate on a decision in which the Ethics Board will exercise quasi-judicial functions pursuant to DC Official Code, Section 2-575B13, and to discuss contract negotiation strategies pursuant to DC Official Code, Section 2-575B2. May I have a motion to enter into executive session?
I'll offer the motion that we enter into executive session.
Second.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that the board enter into executive session. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposition? Hearing none. The time is now 12:44, and we will go into executive session. We'll return for updates on litigation and enforcement matters at the conclusion of the executive session. Thank you. Okay. The time is now 1:23 p.m. and we are back on the record. The only matter to report out is that the board unanimously approved and negotiated this position recommended by OGE in matter 22-0102-P in Ray H. Muhammad. And that's the only item to report out on. So this concludes our meeting for July 2023. Our next meeting will also be held remotely via WebEx and on August 3rd, 2023 at 12 noon. Thank you all and have a good rest of the month. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Cherie. Is it over?